Hi, welcome to my channel and thank you for tuning into my very first YouTube video. So for my first recorded build, I decided to use a real life floor plan because I've been trying to learn how to make more realistic builds. So before we get too much further in this video, let's take a look at what I've been working with. So yeah, here's the front and then here's the back. And then we have a view of the lower level of the build and then the upstairs. And if you'd like to pause to take a closer look, be my guest, but I'm going to go ahead and start talking about this build and a little bit of what I learned while I was doing it. Oh, and so right here I'm just choosing some stairs because once you get them placed, you really can't change the style of them. But anyway, moving on. So this is a two-story neoclassical or federalist style home. There's 4 bedrooms, all upstairs. 2 full bathrooms in the upstairs and 1 half bath, or what you might call a powder room, in the downstairs. And I tried to follow the original floor plan as closely as I possibly could, but I did have to make some adjustments because unfortunately in The Sims it doesn't allow you to follow the exact measurements that are shown in the floor plan. But this is really the most noticeable in the master bedroom and a little bit in the kitchen. So if you look at the kitchen and the floor plan, you'll see that it's supposed to be a pantry and then a broom closet. And in between those two, there's supposed to be a bar facing, I think, the living room, and then a desk facing, I think, in the kitchen. But when I built it that way, it really didn't look right. It was very awkward. Each closet or pantry was only a 1x1 square and it just didn't fit in with the build. It wasted a lot of space. So instead I ended up just putting this bar, and I think it really turned out nice. But I really enjoyed following a floor plan, and I have a whole book full of them, so I'm definitely planning to do a lot more of these in the future. And actually, shout out to my coworker Jessica, who has already helped me pick out what my next build is going to be. So hi Jess, but actually I still have a lot of work to do on this current build. This is going to be a 3-part series just for this one build. I'm pretty sure I've put it's had to be 36 plus hours into this build. It's been a long time that I've been working on it, and I can't wait to get started on my next one, especially now that we have the new split level update with the platforms from Snowy Escape, and I'm super excited about it. And this is the part where I apologize because I didn't put lights on the interior of the house before I started working on it, so I'm so sorry. It's very hard to see inside. At the end of this video, you'll see where I finally did put in the lights, so in the next 2 videos of this build, it'll be a lot easier to see, but unfortunately, for most of this video, you won't be able to see as well as hopefully in the future you'll be able to. And that's just one of the things that I learned while I was doing this build. Another thing that I learned is that I need to build faster. 36 hours is entirely too long to take on a build. Most YouTubers, when they build houses this size, they usually do it in a single weekend. So that's definitely something I'm gonna have to work on. But I really only started playing The Sims 4 this year, and I've only been building in The Sims 4 for maybe 6 months, and so I'm really kind of still getting used to building, learning how to use the tools, and a lot of what I'm doing in here involves cheats and things that are a little more advanced, so it's not really just basic stuff that I'm doing, and there is a lot of attention to detail, especially as we get further into the build. So I'm hoping as I gain my bearings and I get a little bit better at this, I'll be more efficient at building, I'll waste a lot less time, cut a lot less footage, and maybe be able to speed things up a little bit less, because I know sometimes the camera is just moving way too fast for you to follow. And it doesn't help that I have a habit of spinning my screen, my mouse, around a lot in the game because I want to see everything from every single angle. And when I place an item, I want it to be perfect. I don't want it to clip. I don't want it to be flickering. And I end up just spinning my camera like a maniac, and I know it's not easy to watch. So what I've heard is that it just takes practice to stop spinning your camera like that. It's something that a lot of people do, and you just have to learn how to time it and make sure that you cut your in-game recording at the right moment so that you can just cut that stuff out. But occasionally it still makes it into the video, and I just have to get better at watching for it. And that's another thing that I learned while I was building this and while I was making this video, is that it really pays to stop and start recording in your game very often. It just makes it so much easier to cut the footage that you don't want and keep the things that you do want. But the other side of that is that you have to edit your footage as you go, like every 2 or 3 hours of gameplay, because otherwise you end up with like 70 different clips that are each like 30 to 90 seconds long, and it takes forever to get through them all if you're trying to do them all at once. So generally I'm playing for a few hours and then I'm taking a break and coming back and doing some editing, and then I go back to playing for a while. So it does take a really long time to do this. So you'll notice that I don't really finish one room and then go to the next room and do the whole room, but what I'm doing here, for instance, is in the kitchen, I'm trying to make sure that I have all my large spaces filled. So I'm just giving myself a general idea of what I want the layout to look like. And then later I'll come back and go room by room and just kind of clutter everything and make it look lived in. That's when I'll pick all of my color swatches. That's when I'll choose my wallpaper and my floor tiles. But for right now, I'm really just trying to get the basics down so I have an idea of what the general layout is going to feel like. And that's why you'll see me doing a lot of trial and error, for instance, with these cabinets right now in the dining room. I'm just kind of all over the place, not really sure how I'm going to fill these large spaces, but I don't want to wait until later and then not know what's going to go there, and then I kind of like have already backed myself into a corner and I can't change anything. So before starting this build, I had to do some research. I didn't know what the style was called or very much about the time period that it came out of, but I had just downloaded the Pets expansion, which came with Brindleton Bay, and that's the first world that I've added to my base game. So I was very eager to explore and build in Brindleton Bay, even though it's very heavily based on the like New England coastal towns, and that's not really my aesthetic, but I thought I should challenge myself, you know. So I went to Google and I learned about the history of New England architecture, which you know, it was really interesting. So prior to and leading up to the Revolutionary War, most people's homes were very simple. Like they were just these ugly and basic box-shaped houses, because apparently wanting to have anything that looked nice or evoked like any kind of pleasurable response was considered, you know, vanity, which was a sin. And that makes sense, I guess, considering this was a time of great uncertainty and scarcity of resources. And I can definitely understand how not being sure your family will make it through the winter, you know, might lead to a culture of austerity. Well, anyway, throughout the 18th century, and especially immediately following the American Revolution, we gradually kind of discarded these values, and along with that, our architecture also evolved to include more like shapes of homes and you know, more ornamentation around the windows and the doors. And at the same time, we also began taking up these Enlightenment values, which idealized Greek and Roman philosophies, and especially in regards to government. And so the world of art and fashion and music and, you know, architecture, of course, reflected that as well. Okay, so I actually want to talk about this garage for a minute. So the original floor plan has the garage on the ground floor with stairs before you get into the house, which is now possible with the platforms. But, you know, I actually started this build in late September or early October, and that was a while before the platforms update, and now it's too late to change it without kind of taking the whole house apart. And there was a workaround before the update for split level homes and ground floor garages on houses with foundations, but it messed up the lighting and really limited which foundations you could use, so I decided against it. So what I did instead was a trick that I learned from Simply Katie, and I can link you to her tutorial in the description below. But basically, I just used a roof piece and I placed it on the ground. So it looks like a sloped driveway, but really it's a roof piece. And I actually struggled with this a lot. My roof piece kept disappearing when I wasn't looking. Like I would go work on another part of the build and then I would come back and look and my roof piece slash sloped driveway would just be gone. And so I ended up having to redo it like 5 different times, and then eventually I got frustrated and I just decided to leave it for last. Also, The Sims 4 doesn't have actual garage doors or drivable cars, so I ended up using these cars from the debug menu, and then this garage door. It's not really a door, it's really just a wall with strategically placed windows and paint to look like a garage door. So I'm hoping one day we'll have access to garage elements in our builds without having to download custom content. But I am committed to not using custom content in my builds because I want them to be easy for everyone to download from the gallery. So once I researched the styles that would make sense for a New England town, and then I explored Brindleton Bay a little bit, I actually fell in love with this lot because it overlooks the bay on one side, and then it overlooks the hillside town on the other. And because there were these cypress trees right on the edge of the lot, I thought it would make sense to put this style of home here, even though I'm not really a big fan of this like weird brick driveway thing that's like just off the edge of the lot. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but I don't think it fits with this particular build. And I think I could get it to look much more seamless if I were freestyling instead of just going off of a floor plan. So one thing that I was planning to do, and I haven't actually gotten to it yet because I'm still doing the voiceover and then I have to do some more editing before I can post this. I was trying to get inspired for this build and I listened to a little bit of the music from the time period, which is like, you know, your Beethoven and your Vivaldi and you know, your Bach or whatever, and that's not really what I'm into, so it didn't help me get inspired. But I was thinking about if I'm going to be doing different styles of homes, I might want to match my background music to whatever style of home that I'm doing. And you know, I actually considered maybe listening to some Hamilton for this. But you know, I can't put that in the background of my video because of copyright. And now since we're looking at the exterior of the house, something that's really standing out to me right now is the windows. I struggled so much with the windows because I don't have a lot of packs. So it's really difficult for me to match the original build because I don't have any windows that really look like that have that many panes per window, which is, you know, more historically accurate. So in the front I ended up going with these like, I think they're like 3 panes, and I chose those because the frames around the windows looked very Greek or Roman to me. And then in the back, I really just kind of went with like whatever was gonna take up the most space and look the most appropriate with this build. But I really struggled with it, and I expected the pets expansion to help me out with this a lot more than it did. Okay, and another thing is this portico. I ended up having to have a balcony here, which is not anything like the original floor plan. Because for some reason this program, The Sims, it doesn't let me put a frieze around the portico roof without having floor tiles on the second floor. And so as a result, I don't really love the front of the build. I don't like how it turned out. I don't feel like it's true to the Federalist style. It kind of makes me think more of like a southern plantation. And then I was like, you know, I have to have access to this balcony. It can't just be like a faux balcony that's only for show. But I couldn't put the balcony access in the center because there's no floor there on the inside. And so then I was like, if I do one side, then I have to do the other, because symmetry is so important to this time period and their aesthetic. And so I ended up having to like join these two bedrooms with a balcony, which, you know, is a little bit awkward depending on who's living there. And so that was the moment that I decided to make one of those rooms into the nursery. Or actually, that room is for 2 toddlers. But anyway, by the way, if you're still tuned in, I just want to say thank you so much for sticking it out with me in this video. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel. You can click the bell for notifications. Please leave a comment. Let me know how I'm doing. I'd really like to know what kind of videos you want to see, what you want to hear more of, what you'd like to hear me talking about. What can I improve on? What did you like? What type of videos do you want to see? So this is going to be about it from me for this week. Have a lovely Friday. Please be kind to yourself, be kind to others. Remember to stay hydrated, and I will see you next time.